justification for such preemptive action. C. The Senate Select Committee on Intelligence report on whether public statements regarding Iraq by U.S. government officials were substantiated by intelligence information, which was released on June 5th, 2008, concluded that, 1, statements by the President and the Vice President, this is a quote, statements by the President and the Vice President indicating that Saddam Hussein was prepared to give weapons of mass destruction to terrorist groups for attacks against the United States were contradicted by available intelligence information. Operative word, available. Unquote. Thus, the President willfully and falsely misrepresented Iraq as an urgent threat requiring immediate action, thereby subverting the national security interests of the United States by setting the stage for the loss of more than 4,000 of our United States service members, the injuries to tens of thousands of U.S. soldiers, the deaths of over 1 million innocent Iraqi citizens since the U.S. invasion, the loss of approximately $527 billion in war costs, which has increased our national debt, and the ultimate costs of the war between $3 and $5 trillion. The loss of military readiness within the United States Armed Services due to overextension, the lack of training and lack of equipment, the loss of United States credibility in world affairs, and the decades of likely blowback created by the invasion of Iraq. In all these actions and decisions, President George W. Bush has acted in a manner contrary to his trust as President and Commander-in-Chief, and subversive of constitutional government, to the prejudice of the cause of law and justice, and to the manifest injury of the people of the United States. Wherefore, President George W. Bush, by such conduct, is guilty of an impeachable offense, warranting removal of military force against Iraq resolution of 2002. To wit, number 1, HJRes 114 contains several whereas clauses consistent with statements being made by the White House at the time regarding the threat from Iraq, as evidenced by the following. 1, strike that, A. HJRes 114 states, quote, whereas Iraq both possesses a continuing threat to the national security of the United States and international peace and security in the Persian Gulf region and remains in material and unacceptable breach of its international obligations by, among other things, continuing to possess and develop a significant chemical and biological weapons capability, actively seeking a nuclear weapons capability, and supporting and harboring terrorist organizations, unquote. And B, HJRes 114 states, quote, whereas members of Al-Qaeda, an organization bearing responsibility for attacks on the United States, its citizens and interests, including the attacks that occurred on September 11, 2001, are known to be in Iraq. HJRes 114 states that the President must provide a determination, the truthfulness of which is implied, that military force is necessary in order to use the authorization, and this is evidenced by the following. A, Section 3 of HJRes 114 states, subsection B, presidential determination. In connection with the authority granted in subsection A to use force, the President shall, prior to such exercise or soon thereafter as may be feasible, but no later than 48 hours after exercising such authority, make available to the Speaker of the House of Representatives and the President pro tem of the Senate his determination that, 1, reliance by the United States on further diplomatic or other peaceful means alone either A, will not adequately protect the national security of the United States against the continuing threat posed by Iraq, or B, is not likely to lead to enforcement of all relevant United Nations Security Council resolutions regarding Iraq. 2, acting pursuant to this joint resolution is consistent with the United States and other countries continuing to take the necessary actions against international terrorist and terrorist organizations, including those nations, organizations, or persons who planned, authorized, committed, or aided the terrorist attacks that occurred on September 11, 2001. It's a direct quote. Number 3. On March 18, 2003, President George Bush sent a letter to Congress stating that he had made that determination as evidenced by the following. A, March 18, 2003 letter to Congress stating, consistent with Section 3B of the Authorization for Use of Military Force Against Iraq Resolution of 2002, Public Law 107-243, and based on information available to me, including that in the enclosed document, I determined that 1, reliance by the United States on further diplomatic and other peaceful means alone will neither A, adequately protect the national security of the United States against the continuing threat posed by Iraq, nor B, likely to lead to enforcement of all relevant United Nations Security Council resolutions regarding Iraq. This is President Bush's letter. 2, acting pursuant to the Constitution and Public Law 107-243 is consistent with the United States and other countries continuing to take necessary actions against international terrorists and terrorist organizations, including those nations, organizations, or persons who planned, authorized, committed, or aided the terrorist attacks that occurred on September 11, 2001. Number 4. President Bush knew that these statements were false, as evidenced by A, information provided in the articles here, Article 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, B, a statement by President George Bush in an interview with Tony Blair on January 1st, 2003. It's from a White House transcript. The reporter asks, one question for both of you. Do you believe that there is a link between Saddam Hussein, a direct link, and the men who attacked on September the 11th? President Bush, can't make that claim. Said, quote, I can't make that claim, unquote. C, an article on February 19th by terrorism expert Rohan Gunaratna states, quote, I could find no evidence of links between Iraq and al-Qaeda. The documentation and interviews indicated that al-Qaeda regarded Saddam, a secular leader, as an infidel, unquote. According to a February 2nd, 2003 article in the New York Times, at the Federal Bureau of Investigation, some investigators said they were baffled by the Bush administration's insistence on a solid link between Iraq and Osama bin Laden's network. Quote, we've been looking at this hard for more than a year, and you know what? We just don't think it's there, unquote, a government official said. Number 5. Section 3C of HJRes 114 states that, quote, nothing in this joint resolution supersedes any requirement of the War Powers Resolution, unquote. Number 6. The War Powers Resolution, Section 9D 1, states, D, nothing in this resolution is intended to alter the constitutional authority of Congress or of the President or the provision of existing treaties. 7, the United Nations Charter was an existing treaty, and as shown in Article 8, the invasion of Iraq violated that treaty. 8, President George Bush knowingly failed to meet the requirements of HJRes